No.
Well, no, we can't afford it to
Oh.
no way.
That's Maggie's first trips about here for growing options. And it's they take on that next trip. So it's just a couple of community and home health. You didn't realize when somebody else is dying.
That's always
Yeah. It's good, basically.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call will show all members except Mr. Mueller with us this evening. We have an agenda in front of us this evening. Mr. Mayak, do you have any corrections or additions?
Yeah, one addition on the consent agenda under letter C, workforce resignations. Add to that Kim Routh, elementary para. That came in this afternoon, effective May 6th will be Kim's last day.
With that, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Ms. Maloney to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments this evening?
None listed, nope.
We'll move right into the superintendent's report then. Mr. Mayak, please.
Yeah, and typically at this time also we'd have our building principals, our teaching and learning coordinator, and our community ed director share their reports with games and other responsibilities. Their perfect attendance is being spoiled tonight that none of them were actually available to be here. So the information is part of the report as always on the slideshow, and should be pretty self-explanatory with some of the things going on, and they'll be back in May to present again. But we do have Ms. Wigman here with us today. If you remember last month that we recognized in the consent agenda under donations, there was a $12,900 award grant, financial aid coming for our career and tech ed program. And again, we had it under donation. It kind of fit there and kind of was a spot to recognize it, that was some incoming money. But through discussions that Ms. Wigman and I have had, that she asked if she could come in and present to give you a little bit more detail on that. It's really the kind of the true value of what that award really means for our district. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lise.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lise Wigman, business teacher here, and I am excited about this $12,900 grant. It was a joint effort in getting $3 million between neighboring consortiums to apply for this through Minnesota Department of Ed. It originally started through a legislative session back in 2017 that the Rural Career and Tech Ed Consortium approved the partnering of the two neighboring consortiums to apply for this $3 million grant, which they received, and in turn they would reach out to rural districts and offer this to the career and tech ed departments to find out if they had innovative, exciting projects that they could partner with community members and they could use the dollars. And so originally this $3 million was going to be 2019 to 2021, and due to COVID, they extended it. So you could apply for the money until June of 2022, which is this year. So again, the stipulation is only one grant per school, one grant per department, career and tech ed. So we have a wonderful, supportive career tech ed departments through the ag, tech, industrial tech, FACS, myself. And after sharing with them the exciting simulations that the business department could purchase, and knowing that the others, I haven't received anything new in business ed for quite a while, and they were so supportive, they said, Lise, go ahead. And so I applied for the grant and was awarded the grant. And exciting news that the $12,900 purchased a 5-year license for 9 simulations, high school simulations through Knowledge Matters. And those simulations are with a business lens, and they are for business, intro to business class. I can use them for money management, hospitality, entrepreneurship. There's sports and entertainment. There's hotel, there's restaurant. So any of the continuing ed departments are able to use these simulations. And Mr. Storm and I have already talked about, we could talk pricing in one of the simulations before his plant sale. And we're going to do that. But the simulations I'm excited about are, you don't have to go through all 15 lessons of hospitality, all 15 lessons of money management. You are able to choose a lesson that you are currently on that you want to reinforce the learning and customize your own class just for those couple of lessons that you want to use. And so what I have done, the hospitality class happens to be going on a field trip tomorrow to Mankato to the Mayo System Event Center. So we'll see the Mavericks hockey training facilities, we'll see the convention center, we will see the banquets and meeting spaces, we'll talk with the catering, we'll look at ticket pricing, we'll talk to banquet and beverage. And so all the learning that enhances what we've done through our book, event planning, pricing, marketing, and then they'll come back with that learning, and Thursday and Friday, and possibly extending to the following week, they're going to go into the simulation. They'll take a pre-test, which is, what do you know so far? And then there's some reading appropriate to that custom simulation that I put together. They'll take a quick quiz on that reading, and then it's a 30-minute simulation. And for the ticketing, for instance, it's gonna be price and demand. And so that's what they'll be learning. So I'm really excited because of those customized lessons that I can put together. And we'll see. So I'm anticipating I will use them for the classes that I teach next year. And again, it's fun to be able to customize and not think, oh man, I have a lot of lessons and little time to get through all the simulations. I don't have to do that. And so I just wanted to share that with you because it is so exciting. Something that gets them out of the textbook into real life scenarios where they can make these determinations and choices in management. Any questions?
So after they've gone through that, say they were getting the tickets and it's kind of demand and all of that, then at the end, do they get a readout or printout that says how they did and, you know, congratulations, you're gonna make this much money or something like that?
So they have step-by-step in these simulations, the interactive learning and teaching that goes with it. They'll know right away, because of your decision, this is what happened, or you lost money here, you made money here. And so then we have a discussion about it. There is a capstone after the simulation in which it's called the mogul. They can get together in teams. And now that they've had practice with the business that's pretty much laid out for them, they can create their own business and find out if their knowledge has really retained that they can go ahead and try anew. So this is all new for me, and I'm excited at what the future holds for these students. Thank you very much.
That is exciting, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you
It will
for
be-
applying.
You're welcome. It will be really nice. I'm hoping to set up the computer with the simulations for the community night when they come in
Sure.
and we
Great.
talk about our program.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
I'm gonna continue on if I
Yes,
may,
please.
and it actually just pigtail off what Lisa was saying too with our career in tech, our industrial arts, our ag, our business, and our FACS program that, the open house that we're having next Monday, which is another note that, just a reminder that we have our open house, our community open house, and the dedication for the military wall will be at 5 o'clock. We'll have, we need to get our current students notified of that too, to make sure that they're around. We have a speaker lined up. We have the Legion. I spoke with a gentleman from the Geneva area, or Ellendale area, and then from the New Richland area as well, and trying to recruit as many veterans and military people as they can to come in, and a little bit of a recognition dedication for that. But back again to career and tech ed, that with this exciting program that Lease has, and not many other schools have this, and it's absolutely a feather in our cap to be providing this sort of thing for our students. You have a handout here. The link is on the agenda for those that would like to go back. This is the Star of the Futures program that our FACS in our Pro Start students are participating in this coming Sunday. It's a huge, and this is with the hospitality program as well. But the number of students are going up and preparing desserts and foods and whatnot for this big event. And if you look at the participating schools there, we are the one, South Central rural Minnesota district that's involved. A lot of the metro schools, or the rest are metro or larger districts, so it's another feather in our cap to what's taking place in our school and being provided. Obviously, Mr. Sorum with the egg program and the greenhouse and the open house, he's going to have some pre-sale of the plants and flowers that they're providing again, and we'll have for sale later on this winter, spring, same thing.
So Mike, dovetailing off of when you mentioned Pro Start and hospitality together, the hospitality end of things at this Coon Rapid event has been using Egan high school hospitality class for the setup and the silent auction. But I have talked with Egan and talked with Cindy at Hospitality Minnesota, and there is a option that my hospitality class would be able to help out.
Nice.
So we're looking to that in the future,
Good.
which would be exciting.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Good, thank you for that.
Thank you.
So again, Mr. Sorum's got some things on display, and again, the pre-sale, and absolutely promoting not only the labs, but the greenhouse. Mr. Root has some products or student-made projects that are still around and going to be put up for sale, and at the open house as well. So absolutely would echo what Lisa was talking about with the Career and Tech Ed program that we do have. It's giving our students some fantastic opportunities. Which I'll segue into the art program, and if you haven't seen the mural or stopped and taken a look at that, please do so at the end. I did include, this came out, it must be the Saturday, Sunday edition, front page of the Albert Lee paper with a nice story on the project and the artwork that's going up. KEYC was here today, and really, if you have a chance to thank Miss Gale for all the work that she put into this. It's been newspapers and a couple TV stations coming in and promoting it and putting their name out there. And the students have been in the cafeteria area quite a bit, watching and kind of paying attention. And Miss Gale's been very excited about. He'll talk about this, and she'll relate that back to what she's doing in her classes. And Lauren maybe can help me with some of these art terms with 1 point and 2 point. And,
why don't you just take over, Lauren?
I know nothing.
But just a lot of the things that they're doing in the class, the grid work and the perspectives, and again the 1 point or 2 point, and obviously the colors and the reflection that Ms. Gale always has our students write kind of a reflection after a project and whatnot. And of course, they grumble about it and having to write all this stuff. And the artist was sharing again that that's very typical that he does that sort of thing with this type of project too. So it's absolutely taking what's taking place in the classroom and they're seeing it in real life, in an artistic life and job and opportunity. So kudos to Ms. Gale for all that she's done in putting into this. So, two other things real quick. I just want to talk with our AVSME people at the end here. That's Joanne, Terry, and Dan, if we can find some dates, to throw 3 or 4 dates together that we could bring to our negotiating team and try to find a date for the next few days here or whatever to start that process with the negotiating. And then real quickly, and this is hot off the press as well, I think in the last 3 school days or so, we've had, 4, 5, 6 different insurance meetings, if you saw the information that came out with our insurance. It is, we could ramble on and really get on a soapbox and talk about kind of the injustice that we as a district are facing, and 16 or 17 now other school districts are in the same situation that we are. Long story, well, it's going to be a long story. Our claims are much higher, double of what we're paying in for premiums. That's kind of the bottom line. And if you look at the calculations for insurance, it's going to show some major increases. Going into the PEEP insurance program was supposed to be kind of a safety net for districts like us and many others that have higher claims or not even have higher claims. So a very large pool of people coming together to kind of level that sort of thing out. At the 13th hour, PEEP has kind of revised and redid some of their policies that say, no, you're really not part of that group. You're really part of this little group over here, which is within this big group. And again, you just get so frustrated and like, well, how is that legal? How is that ethical? How can you do that? And the bottom line is they can, and they are. And again, jump in here that the meeting that we had today, the first meeting we had today was with the 16 school districts that are facing the same situation. Included in that meeting was Justin Krieger from our insurance broker. I invited him and cleared it with the other superintendents because he was providing so much information for us and so much help. But MSBA was there, MASA was there, 2 members from MSBA were involved in the meeting, and then NRHEG was part of the meeting, and you could absolutely sense the frustration and the questions and lack of answers and sometimes lack of support, and really it's going to take legislative action to make some big changes, and that is not going to happen in this legislative session. Or I should say very, very, very unlikely to happen in the next few weeks. And our insurance clock is ticking very loudly as far as that time frame goes to collective get bids, do the paperwork and all of that, and have everything up in place by July 1st. So, we 50% increase is obviously devastating, and that is worst case scenario. Justin has found some other situations that, and actually presented 4 different situations that, in a nutshell, there's 7 different agencies that can bid for us. 4 kind of independent agencies, and then 3 like co-ops. South Central Service Co-op would be one of those 3. The 4 agencies that are allowed to give public schools bids, all 4 of them, 3 of the 4 said, no way, don't want to touch you. The 3 agencies said, no way, don't want to touch you. Justin has, in his words, cashed in a lot of favors with people and with Blue Cross, and Blue Cross was willing to submit a bid or proposal for our insurance. And it's not pretty, but it's a lot better than a 50% increase, or it's better than a 50% increase. So, in our side of the meeting, the second meeting that we had today, we included our teacher union rep, negotiating insurance, Mark Domeyer. Terry Carmen was there from ASME. Moe was there as another ASME rep. Obviously Carla, Corrine, myself, and Justin met. And we kind of have it narrowed down to a better option. And now it's going back to the unions and talking to the people. And as a teacher group, the largest group, they have to do some discussions and voting and timetables, 5-day notice, those sorts of things. But we'll be presenting more information to the staff on Thursday morning and just trying to get the word out as much as we can on the different options that are there. Again, absolutely not pretty, but absolutely better than 50% as well. So, and trying to come up with some sort of modifications, alterations, whatever we can do to make it less painful for everyone in the district that receives insurance.
So will that membership vote on the plan? Or will they, is that what I'm understanding from you, or there
Well,
there
I
will be
think-
some options and they'll,
Option 1 is stay with PEEP.
right?
So that's a pretty simple one.
Yeah,
Option 2 is the Blue Cross bid. And option 3 was dealing with some cash in lieu possibilities or an ICRA possibility.
What's that?
Individual, it's HRA is the last 3, like your health, reimbursement, account. No, it's not account, but it's arrangements.
Oh,
There you go.
But the I is individual something. So it's,
so it's creating an account that they can put these monies into and also deposit monies of their own for
yep,
paying for their health care.
with a list of, do's and don'ts this long.
Yep,
And this particular plan has, it's basically a pay first and get reimbursed. The employee would pay the premiums and whatnot and submit the receipts and get reimbursed. And it's
it's like a health savings account.
it's an option.
It's not, you can't put your own money in, it's
You
not
can't.
a savings account, and then you have to go on the individual market and buy. You can't be a member of another
Oh.
group insurance and get the
Okay.
district's contribution put in there. So unlike a cash in lieu, then you can take that and go beyond another, a parent or a spouse or whatnot. But, there's a lot of rules and a lot that would go into getting ready for those. And like he said, the clock is ticking
Right.
very quickly. So yeah, ultimately they will get the vote in, which direction we're heading.
Sure.
But we think it's gonna be so obvious that it.
Sure, yeah, and hopefully it is, that it's obvious that this particular option seems like it could be concerning on just the drastic change of management of it.
Yeah.
That's concerning of the unknown of what you,
Yeah.
when you change that drastically, sometimes there's a little gray
Yes.
fine print that you didn't read and you get 6 months into
Right.
the plan. And
Right.
So we had a very active health insurance committee that we met on a regular basis to prepare for the move to PEEP.
Yes,
We thought we were so smart.
right,
We landed there
Right.
and then, we haven't needed to meet a lot, not much to talk about.
till now.
And had we gotten any warning, we would have already been meeting and doing our homework and
Right.
bidding and whatnot. But we did not. Justin got a call 15 minutes before the rates went public, that they were changing the whole philosophy, the whole equation on how to calculate rates. He called and said 50, and we said, did you say 15? Because 15, we were not expecting 15.
Right.
No, I said 5-0. It's like,
Does anyone else know, is healthcare obviously is going up? I mean, that is proportionately,
there were schools in this pool,
okay,
got -2.
okay, that's what I wanted to know.
But on
So
the
it's totally
same,
based off of,
on the same
Same
line,
Basically,
and
they
Right.
cut the fat
Yep.
right,
through us.
To the
to
dogs.
the curb, to the whatever.
I thought that was the value of PEEP.
Well, it was
The
supposed to
design.
be.
It was,
That
it
was
was
the,
supposed to, what we
Right.
understood, and
Right.
it just, they called it, some referred to it as bait and switch, they said, well, it's
Sure.
technically not that, but.
So the idea had been that this organization, PEEP, is a governmentally based, right?
all
Yeah.
The rules are in statute.
And it was just for teachers and other
Government.
staff, or is it all government?
I thought it was
It's not, there's a separate state's employee class,
stated.
but there are cities, counties, public schools, and charters in it.
Yeah.
It's all driven by state statute, the rules, the
So
HIP, this all.
Theory, we should have been counterbalanced by other schools that didn't make so many claims.
In theory. Once you go into PEEP, you have to commit to 2 years. You know, you can look back and think,
Could have gotten a better deal. Yeah.
well, in 2 years, maybe they should make school stay 4, so there's not so much up and down.
Yeah.
They said 17%, I don't know if it was the members, 17% of groups, 17% left, because they got better bids. Because they work with brokers, and that's the market, you know? So when that happened, had they even given us a little, hey, you know, this could change things for us. we would've-
Maybe they didn't have a lot of notice either.
I don't know, but I can tell you what, school districts across the state are scared now for the
Upset.
ones that have January renewals.
Right?
So what is our work timeline? When do we renew?
Well, it's July 1, but it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, I think, with 60 days from that.
Right.
So I think we got about 3.5 days. to
Yeah.
decide. I don't know.
Cool.
and the bids were
May
due on the
1st then.
28th. Bids are due on the 28th. He
Okay.
kind of give a soft deadline of last Friday, the 15th, and when everyone comes back and says, no, that's not too
Right.
much of a soft deadline, it's the deadline was met way earlier. So, yeah, and again, just that, you know, but looking, and Corrine has pulled up quite a few of our area districts, that there are many that have high premiums like we do, even above what we do. The contribution by districts obviously vary, and really the bottom line across at least the districts that we took a look at was, it stinks all around. That it's you know, money coming out of the checks and being deducted from checks to cover this increase, and it's really just walloping. Maybe, again, there is some negative ones that went down or were at least balanced or equal, but the whole concept, again, not only what the theory was, what we were preached over and over and what we were sold on as PEEP was, it was this very large group that everything will even out. And again, behind closed doors somewhere, they changed the rules.
I'd have to believe if they leveled it like that, or pooled it, it was gonna be double digit, we don't know.
Right.
Double digit increases, and then the
10%,
healthy ones were gonna leave anyway, so they're trying
Sure.
to slow
Save
the
them.
sinking.
Right.
And if we see, if we start hearing in the news, they're gonna get a bailout or something like that, it's gonna be really,
Interesting if they come across the back.
across 16 public schools that are small and.
And then if we went with PEEP, we'd have to do another 2-year commitment?
We were able to get out of this 2-year commitment because we met the standard. The 50% mark was a very important mark. If you were at that 50%, you could opt out. And so we met that, and they made very much sure that us and the other 16 districts did meet that, so we would get out of there. And that, you know, they were absolutely not making ends meet with our premiums and the expenses going out with claims. So they wanted us gone for sure. And so they allowed us that 50% loophole to get out.
This dirty pool. isn't it?
It's
And it
awful.
sure
And
feels
they-
like,
They were, it's bad faith. I mean, they didn't even,
yeah,
they sold you one bill of goods and now
yeah.
it changed everything.
Yeah, and then we have geography working against us. We're in a part of a state where we don't have a lot of options because we're for those who appreciate Mayo, we're
Surrounded by
so
Mayo.
blessed to be so close to Mayo.
Yeah, but
And the flip side of it is,
There's zero
Okay.
options outside.
Yeah. when you're looking at insurance policies, you're very limited.
Do you have any idea what our loss ratio was relative to premium previous years? I mean, have we, Have we, if you take an
Yeah,
average, have we?
yeah. Very high. And we,
Okay.
the switch over to PEEP was that, if I'm remembering the information correct, that South Central Service Co-op bid was gonna be a 30% bid or increase at that time as well. So PEEP comes
Got
in,
us there.
swoops in and says 4%, we're offering, or we're averaging 4% over the last 10 years, and they absolutely gave us a steal of a deal that comes around. And the interesting thing today, and the MREA rep, there's a lot of frustration, and to see the frustration from MSBA and MASA, the Superintendent's Association, and from MREA, it was very encouraging that they are upset with this. They know that something big has to happen. It didn't change the outcome. It's not going to change the outcome before July 1, but at least there is people bigger than us and bigger than the 16 districts, trying to fight together or alone. And we're actually the second largest district of that group of 16.
Holy smokes.
One of the schools, I think, is like 125 students. And so, what's their staff? 20 staff members to take that sort of a hit is, what are you gonna do? So.
Yeah, I sensed a little bit, a couple of different superintendents today saying things like, yeah, when our teachers voted to go there, we tried to talk, or when we look back, we don't feel that at all.
Right.
We needed to go to PEEP when we went to PEEP, we all went together, because we didn't have to. It was where we needed to be. We just didn't know this was a possibility that they could put a run out like this. We didn't, nobody did. So now we have to adjust.
And from a district standpoint, our contract is settled from our district obligation currently, but it's a situation that we want to be helpful and reasonable and
Yeah.
try and work through this together as a complete district versus saying,
Yeah.
sorry, staff, figure it out.
Yeah, right.
Is
And
kind
we'll
of where
get
we're
to
at
that
just
point,
for,
and
so.
obviously this vote that they'll take on, switching carriers will be kind of step one. We'll move into, again, that we do have a, kind of a twofold contribution as a district to the employees, that there is the insurance premium contribution, and then there's the HSA or VIVA contribution. Now, can they be combined? Can you shift some of that same money, the same dollar amounts, can you combine it, shift it to cover premiums? All of it to go to premiums, some of it to go to premiums, and then out-of-pocket expenses, less taken out of your paycheck, but more if you're using this insurance and going to the doctor and things of that sort. So, yeah, I absolutely anticipate some meetings and
Sure.
the MOU was discussed at some, well, that was more ICRA.
No, we did talk about a possible MOU that would allow them to do just what I have just described. Is maybe to help soften the blow, a little less be going into their savings account. The hope is some of them have built that up, we don't know. But maybe as a temporary solution, maybe half of what they're used to going into Aviva goes in and the rest goes towards premium. That doesn't change our obligation financially,
Right.
and it gives them a little, that's the teachers. Ask me, we're going to negotiations, so we can deal with that one during negotiations. Like some individual contracts just list one amount, and we're allowed to direct it. So, that's one thought we might be coming back with.
So our entire district is on peak, regardless of your.
Correct.
Yep.
As we stand today, yes.
Right.
As we said, yeah.
Oh, that was the other option, that there could potentially be a small group and a large group. Would
Okay.
that change rates, that kind of rebidding and whatnot? And it absolutely did not. And
It's complicated
Yeah.
there too, I would assume.
Yeah, the AFSCME and individuals could combine, and they could be a small group in the eyes of the rules, 50 or less. And so they put a bid out there, and that's all age-based, it's not based on health claims, nothing going forward, it's all age-based. So that was ugly.
Yeah,
We thought 50% looked bad.
yeah, no, really, there was 70s and 80% increases on the small group.
Based on your age?
So we threw that idea out.
It's interesting.
Again, that's zip code. If you go to the marketplace, it's zip code and it's your age.
Isn't that discrimination?
Well, it's fact.
Not in
Sure, it's
healthcare
calculation.
conversations. That term is used very regularly. The market will bear it. Math problem that they do. Well, hopefully we get some good news on, appreciate you researching other options, obviously,
Yeah,
and combining
kudos
the
for-
workforce and getting a solution to it. We'll work through it and this too will pass.
Yeah, it will. We're fairly confident, pretty confident we're not looking at that worst case scenario, 50%, but
Is the Blue Cross Blue Shield significantly less coverage?
same coverage, open access, so you're not tied in with Mayo or non-Mayo or whatever the case would be, but an increase in deductible or out of pocket,
Sure.
so.
Did you ever look at any non-mail plans?
Yep, and then there is a closed network option through Blue Cross. So if we went with Blue Cross, they have all employees would get 3 choices. About $5,000 deductible, $7,050, that's just the single. And then there is a closed network, so non-mail. So if you wanna drive, if you wanna be a little, well, I shouldn't say that, you might live in Mankato, you might not mind going to Mercy One and
Mason
Albert
City
Lea.
or Northfield has
Northfield.
Albert
Um,
Lea.
Overlooked.
You know,
Oh,
I-
an absolute little town,
Yeah,
isn't
Albert
it,
Lea
Mayo?
has
But the
it.
clinic is.
Yeah, so at first Justin said, again, because of geography, but this meets the ACA, this is affordable. This is a junk, I think you used that word. Well, then the more we start doing that, it's like, okay, but we have staff that lives in Mankato and Albert Lea with Mercy One, and we have staff that live in Otana that could go up to Faribault and,
Northfield.
so it's non-mail, an emergency, you can go wherever, of course, but otherwise, yes, you might go to a clinic in Mankato and have to check into the Owatonna Hospital for a procedure, but
But it's mainly due to your rating, or your, I
Our
mean,
claims.
That one is, yeah. They get paid, cashing in a lot of favors on Justin to allow Blue Cross, or to get Blue Cross to actually bid that. So we're appreciative of all the work that Justin's done. Quite above and beyond for us, for sure.
But yeah, that one would be affordable.
And actually, that one, the premiums were about the same. It was just the out-of-pocket deductible expense went up.
You're on,
But you have the inconvenience of maybe having to drive.
I don't know how it works with the school, but we gave people an option for a few years. They could either pick the mail network or out of mail.
okay,
And they paid, like you say, it worked. I don't know how it works with the school, but we gave them an option. They could pick between a couple.
yep, and that's what this will be,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
That would be the least amount of change in this short time period that we have to get ready. You know, we all understand group policies, we all understand what that is. And then we could start getting back to our insurance meetings and learning more about ICRA and other options going forward. Because again, a year from now, if our group health is on the same trajectory, we're gonna be right back here. So we have to learn more, so we're ready for a different option.
Somebody knocking.
Very frustrating, but very
Yeah.
informative, the last few meetings, obviously, and
Look
Carla's.
at all you've learned.
Right.
Yeah, right,
Oh, it's been great.
yeah.
Just what you planned on doing the last
Right.
2
Just
weeks
another
and
way for us
the
to
next
do
two.
it.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you wanna talk more about it, we can ramble on more and more.
Anything else this evening, Mr. Meyer?
No, that is it for my administrative reports.
Not to cut you off here, but yeah, thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Meyer? With that, we'll move into board member comments. Are there any of those this evening? would like to thank the people involved in getting our Costa Rica children back to the district safely. Mr. Mayak particular there too for everything you did, but there were a lot of other people involved with that, as you well know, and
Absolutely.
chaperones and instructors, and obviously that didn't end exactly the way we wanted it as far as getting home in a timely manner, but we are glad that everyone did make it home
Yep.
safe and sound, and I am hopeful both, maybe might take the parents a little longer than the kids to call it a great trip, but from what I'm hearing, it sounded like it was indeed a great trip and a great
Absolutely.
experience, so I hope they focus in on that versus the hiccups of challenges of the airline industry along with the insurances and all those other industries that are having
Travel.
issues. Right, so. Anything else? The next regular meeting will be May 16th over in Allendale at the Elementary School Media Center at 6:30 p.m. And then, of course, we didn't touch on this, Mr. Mayak, but is there anything that board members can help with throughout the open houses that are planned, or any?
No, I think just show
Okay.
up and
Great.
be present, that'd be fantastic. And,
Perfect.
yeah, just-
Don't be afraid to ask any of the other 6 members to help.
so,
It might be hopefully planting.
Okay.
We'll see. That takes us up to the consent agenda. Mr. Mayak, please.
yeah, thank you. The school board members have been provided with this background information of all items on the consent agenda. These items will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, we'll have that pulled from the consent and we'll vote on that separately. Before we approve that, though, we would like to recognize the donations that have been made. We have a $3,000 donation from Prairie Lakes Regional Art Council for the mural donation. The Heartland Firefighters Relief Association donated $200 for our ECSE helmets. The scores table and sideline chairs came in late, but they came in, and now the billing and paperwork has been completed, so we'll recognize the State Bank of New Richland for that $9,100 donation for that purchase. And then we had a $117.95 anonymous donation for our fitness center, some different items for our fitness center. So this month's donations to the district equaled $12,417 and $95,942.72 total for the year donations for our district. So with gratitude, we thank those people and those organizations making those donations. And with that, then I would ask the board to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rao, seconded by Mr. Shanerock to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our preliminary 22-23 staffing plan. Mr. Mayor, please.
And that one really is, for the most part, on this preliminary plan, the adoption of the probationary teachers, moving them into the second year, the third year, and those that are currently third year, moving into 10-year status with the district. That's the meat and potatoes of what the staffing plan is at this point. I have had conversations with our principals when we're dealing with budgets and looking at the teaching assignments, preliminary or primarily with our overload situations that we have in the secondary building. And we did make some changes and reductions and some schedulings that would allow that to happen, so we don't have as many overloads or 6/5 contracts being offered and having staff use those. So at this point, again, it's really the recognition of our probationary teachers. We'll have a little bit more detail in the final budget proposal when that comes out. And then the reduction of some of those overload assignments is the preliminary report on staffing for now. Any questions on our staffing?
We want to move right into budget
Yep.
issue then?
I sure will, and
Perfect.
you have a packet of information here that hopefully will look somewhat familiar to you. It's part of the budget planning presentation that we had at our March 14th special session. I pulled a couple of those just to review and then added a slide with a little bit of an update. But if you look at the second page, the historical data, again, just to kind of look at where we were the last 7 years or so with our budget, and oftentimes above budget or projections being realized with less expenditures, and the budget and the fund balance growing more than anticipated. Obviously those to the far right, the yellow shaded areas were our COVID years and ESSER contributions, and just again kind of get a real quick glimpse at what the recent history has looked like with our budget and how our fund balance has grown, and currently at roughly $3.6 million. The next page again is just that graph showing that fund balance and how that is now in that 33% type of a range for the fiscal year 21, moving into 22 and 23. Obviously that's what we're focusing here on, and again there's a nice visual on how that fund balance, where that fund balance is, and what some of the preliminary projections will be in the next couple of years. So the next slide then, the 21-22 review and possible changes. And again, this, if you remember, we've talked a couple times that a year ago the board approved a budget with deficit spending of roughly $190,000. Carla has updated some of those numbers along the way and provided some updates that we know that shrunk, that deficit has shrunk to roughly $160,000. Maybe shrink into 140, and then obviously the weather and the heating bills and all those other things kind of come into play too, and so it's obviously a very fluid type of a situation. And if there's anything to add on that, then it's one day it looks like A and the next day it might look like B, with just some of the things that are happening. But again, there's so much in limbo right now as far as the state surplus and the additional funds that could be coming to the school districts. If you're following that or paying attention to that, there is a huge distance between the House and the Senate as far as what type of monies they're willing to, or how they're looking to use the state surplus, and how education as a whole will recognize some of that. Some of the early proposals are very favorable and would have a nice chunk of money coming to school districts across the state. And then on the flip side, there's some projections or some thoughts that there'll be very little additional money coming into the school districts, and our school district in particular. So with the recess on right now, and then are they back now today, or?
Yeah, Tuesday,
Yeah.
today, right?
And we got about 5 weeks until the session is supposed to be over, so things will be moving and shaking, and we'll see how some of that turns out. But again, kind of a review of where we are for this year. We're probably still in that better shape, but we're not at $190,000 deficit spending. Maybe it's closer to 140, and maybe that one could decrease some yet as well. So then, the last page again, just this, if we take a look at some projections that what we're looking at for next year, and again, it's too early with the unknowns that are out there, but if we do see a deficit of $140,000 this year, our $3.6 million fund balance would decrease to $3.460,000. The board has approved the purchase of the vans that needed, that have met their end of life 12-year cycle, and the board has approved, upon my recommendation, the purchase of the van. So Those two, we absolutely know those two expenses or three purchases will equal roughly $150,000. Okay? So that $3.46 million fund balance will take a hit of $150,000 with those purchases, leaving our fund balance, projected fund balance at $3.3 million. What we're looking at in this early stage right now is the potential of asking the board to approve a budget of deficit spending of $137,000. So on that chart again, we're looking at a projected fund balance or projected over a budget of $458,000. 150 of that is the vans and the bus. We're looking at making roughly $100,000 of some shifts in funding and some reductions, the overloads that I spoke of on the staffing report, that would be included in this $100,000 of reductions. There's some ESSER funds that we can shift and use to cover some of the additional expenditures that we've had and that we weren't necessarily planning on using at first, but as things are shaking out and kind of coming into play, that we're very comfortable or confident that $70,000 of that ESSER fund could be used to cover some of these operational costs. So 458 is our deficit spending. Just to justify that again, that those buses, that's not that operational, and I'm trying to categorize this on we're not overspending $458,000 on our operational costs. That it's not that bad. Those buses obviously take from that the reductions that we're going to make, that ESSER funds that we can shift. What we're looking at or potentially looking at is the operating cost deficit spending roughly $137,000 for next school year. And so as we move on to the next days and weeks, more of that should be solidified, and projecting another update in May and a final budget for approval in June.
If I'm understanding this accurately, then you're projecting $100,000 worth of cuts though throughout the district based off of administrative recommendations.
Yep.
ESSER funds last they were different, different time frames to spend different ESSER, different amounts.
Right.
So if we transfer the 70,000, is there some left for the following year, or when does that have to be?
I'll give my explanation and you corrected it. The 22-23 school year is year 2, 23-24 school year would be kind of the end of ESSER funds. And that big pot of $1.7 million or whatever that came in a year or 2 years ago has been spread out over those years. And there are monies earmarked for some of those expenses for next school year and the year following.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, of that pot, it's some of those are covering the additional staff and the additional expenses that we have, and that money is categorized that way. And this $70,000 is still kind of floating out there. What should we do with it? How can we use it? And we felt that could be used for some of the things that we do have in place.
So can you tell me how many dollars of ESSER funds are appropriated for the 22-23 school year?
Grand total, I'm going to say in the neighborhood of, with this 70, would be pushing 450-ish.
Wow, I would say about 450-ish. Yeah, so 356,000 in ESSER, $3. Okay, so we used, so 356, and then we're gonna use what's called ARP, Finance 140, to help pay for a van. That's 28,000. And then there's some ESSER $3 that we're referring to about the 70,000. Those are dollars to be spent outside of the normal school hours. So whether it's conferences or open houses or additional help with students, homework help. So yeah, you throw all those together and we're right at that 450 that you said.
Good, thank you.
And about the, well, probably what, 350 for the, to go back to your original question, there's obviously some that earmarked for the 23-24 school year.
Yes, the other half of that 356,000, that was the ESSER 3. So we got the ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3. And so we took ESSER 3, that was the biggest pot of money, and what we're trying to do is what it was designed to do is help students
No.
bring them back up, you know? So if we can spread that out over these 3 years and not need it all, that we think is what's best for kids, reading intervention and teaching and learning and, you know, some of those things. We've also used it and justified a couple of staff members to keep class sizes low. Didn't seem like the right time to be increasing class sizes when we're trying to help students achieve, so.
Would you like to give a description on Fin 160 versus 161 versus compare that to Fin 171?
You know, do you guys remember that chart I sent you? You remember that flow chart? And then remember the next tab
She sent
described
us
everything?
I don't
Remember we were
think,
gonna have a test on that?
I might have to
What day is that
check
in
my
the
junk
beginning?
mail.
Yes.
Right. Do you guys have anywhere to be tonight?
At least I told you to ramble on for 10 minutes. That's what I tell everyone. Just keep rambling on.
You know, there's a lot of different pots of money. There was one that had to do with COVID testing. That was all to be used this year. This next pot of money you can carry over 1 year. The next one you might be able to carry over 3 years. So we're just trying to really keep an eye on every single one of the, I don't know, 12 pots of money so that we use it appropriately, we follow the timelines, we're not returning dollars.
Do you have to report on how they're used? Are they asking for reports on that?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Preliminary budgets ahead of time
That's,
and then approval on those. The
yep,
Panther, the summer, the elementary summer Panther program.
Camp?
Yeah,
Or Camp Panther?
quite a long application and budget needed to be submitted for that, and then they approve whatever dollar amount they approve, and then that's what we work on, so yeah.
yeah, that was a fun one. Remember, I think I maybe told you. So a year ago, they said, what do you guys think you're gonna spend this summer to bring these kids back up? So we took a look and planned, and they figured it out, and we said, this is what we think we'll spend. And they said, okay, go ahead. Here's 25% to get going, and then we'll get back to you later. So we do the summer program, it was great, send in enrollment, and they said, well, we decided we're gonna pay based on membership, not based on what you thought you were gonna spend. So, some districts, you need to send us some of your 25% back.
Thanks.
That's how it went. That was not our case, but then we had to all of a sudden take other sources of money to help cover last summer's program. So then it comes around again, they said, okay, we're gonna do this again. We said, what? They said, well, we're gonna do it different. You're gonna tell us what you think it'll be. In 1 month, we're gonna tell you whether you're approved for that. And if we approve you for that, that is what you have to spend. Because we can't control if they're gonna come. We can build it, doesn't mean they're gonna come. So hopefully that's the way it's gonna be this summer. But yeah, it's a lot. But yes, as far as you'll see for the next few years, our audit bills are gonna be much more expensive than normal because they have to do what's called a single audit because we're receiving so much federal money. So they have to test a lot more, it's a lot more work at audit time, we have to produce a lot more documents. So yeah, they are watching, which they should.
Back to your question though, Lauren, thank you for asking it, because when you put it in a total lump sum like that, and then you realize that it is coming to an end, it's kind of the reality of it that it'll be painful when that ends, because I'm sure some of these positions have become, I mean, I would hope they're helpful, and back to the purpose is student achievement, so
Right.
that transition time when that comes to an end is going to be challenging of,
Well, that's why I hope this, our budget, what do we call it, our budget goal of 22 to 28%. I hope we're not in a big hurry to make sure we're there. I think we can,
right,
I think we can keep it above that for a while. It won't hurt a thing.
right.
Right.
And I think that's good management to keep that in mind for that day when this does hit the fan, because I can't imagine going and saying, we're taking all 400,000 out of the process, because I would hope they're justifying those positions better than that.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we have to look at. We had an idea on what we could spend this on and what our anticipation was gonna happen with these dollars, and I think that maybe more on your plate, Mike, but we have to evaluate, was it successful? Is it successful to continue it, or has it served its purpose and it's no longer necessary or will show a benefit like it has in the past?
Yep.
So I guess that's one of the concerns, that's a challenge and to justify it.
Good. Good discussion. All right, anything else to add on that? And this wasn't necessarily an action item either,
No,
then, so
just
you're
an
just
update.
providing us information there. With that, I think it concludes our business portion then. If there's not anything else at this time, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Shanerak, seconded by Mr. Ralph to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.